get dirtier, and so you always want to try and look for that dirty water. And with the tide as well, for example, if you're getting fish, well, the other night, a couple of nights back, Robbie and a mate of mine, we fished for big fish there up in the Queenskip there, and the ones that bite, we get really big fish up there, up to 50, 51 centimetres is bigger fish. We only got, I think, 13 fish, but we started in there, and all our fish were over 45 centimetres, between 45 to 48 big fish. The tide was hammering hard, and the tide around the head slowed down quicker than what it did. In areas it will slow down before it slows down in another area. So we got about, I think, 7 or 8 fish, and as that tide slowed down, which was to come to stop, they stopped biting. So I went up and around Queenskip into another spot where I knew the tide would be running, and we got another 7 fish on the end of that tide, and then we went in, just because it was still moving there, and then it slowed down. So there's different areas in the bay where the tide will flow longer than it will in other places. It's to do with the depth of the water and stuff like that. With your gear, just your basic rods really, you don't need nothing too special, but if you can spend your $600 on a rod, you can spend your $50 on a rod, whatever you want to spend really. Just your up to 1 to 2 kilo, 2 to 3 kilo, nothing too big, heavy. But you want a soft tip, just a soft tip, because so you don't, if you've got a stiff tip and it doesn't allow it to go in the fish's mouth and be able to strike it. Your reel, your 2,500 size, with your Gamakatsu worm hook, shiner or circle. If you're holding the rod, use your straight hooks. If you're not holding the rod, or if you've got a second rod, use your circle hooks. Obviously, when the fish, if you've got a circle hook and you've got the rod in your hand, you're striking, it's not, well, you still catch fish on it, but it's harder to hook the fish because it's designed to not hook the fish. They're designed for fish to pick it up, turn it, and that's when it goes in the mouth and hooks them. Your straight hooks, I use straight hooks pretty much all the time. I only use one rod when I go whiting fishing. I don't use two, too hard. Because my theory is you go whiting fishing, if you're not catching fish, you don't do it. So you go out, you go fishing to catch fish. So if you've got 2 rods in your hand and you're sitting around waiting, don't sit, you should be doing something. You should be burleying, or you should be working out where to go next, because there's no point sitting there doing nothing. If you're not getting fish, you're not going to get fish there. That's my theory on it. So you want to try and move to find it, unless you sort of know the day before they're coming on at this time or whatnot, but that's generally because of the tides change. So you shouldn't be there, but work out your tides when the fish are going to go. Your leader, just 10 to 15 pound. I use 12 pound. My leader's 12 pound. I just use that. I reckon that's fine. That's no worry. Your braids, 8 to 10 pound. Doesn't really affect the way you hook or hook your fish or anything like that, in my opinion. But yeah, 12 pound, no worries at all. On the that's the rig I use. So I don't use no swivels. You'll find a lot of them local. I try to draw it up. I'll stand over here. So basically, your rig, you've got your joiner knot. So I don't use swivels, nothing like that. You'll find that a lot of people use running rigs for whiting. I don't use running rigs at all for whiting. A lot of the local guys, big type, they use running rigs because it starts to spin their line. But I'm usually out of there before that tide gets too strong to start using swivels and stuff. But to stop that, like a lot of people will run your, sorry, I'm getting away here. We're around this way. Where your joiner knot is there, a lot of people will run a swivel there and have your line, your sinker up on top of the main line. And then I run just a joiner knot, just with your loop knot. Depends on your tide and how big your sinker is. Just your leader, and then your hook down here. Like a simple, basic fishing. I use that on all my rigs.
How long is your leader?
1.2. About 1.2.
Okay.
So yeah, 10 to 12 pound. Right, yeah. You don't want it ridiculously long. I don't think it makes. You don't want it short because it's too short. Your bait wouldn't sit right.
Where's your sinker in there?
So yeah, the sinker's on the dropper. So this loop here, that's your dropper. So you pop your sinker on your dropper hook up there. That loop's sort of a bit bigger than it looks a bit. You run it, say, I just do a, we'll call it cat's paw knot. You probably know the deal. Basically, you turn your line over and you wrap it in between each other, pull it, and then that gives you the loop, and then you just loop your sinker on. That way you can change it, no worries, when you time. And then you have your 1.2 from that.
You use line or fluorocarbon?
Doesn't really matter. I don't think it makes a difference. I bought fluorocarbon the other day, actually. The other day I grabbed some fluorocarbon, but mono's just the same. A lot of people just use, well, you know that cheap stuff you get from Jarvis Wall stuff. I was using that the other day on a mate's boat. I went out on a mate's boat, that's all he had. That was the night we fished those big fish, and we got those big fish on it. So personally, that's me. I'm personally not a huge believer in it. I reckon if you're doing your brim, your finesse fishing with that sort of stuff, the way it sinks and stuff like that, I reckon that's a bit different. But your whiting, no, I don't think it matters much. Just too much. Yeah, no, that's just that's me though. Like that's how I do it. So I don't think.
So how does this compare with a double hook paternoster?
You can see that's your double hook will have your hook coming off here, and you have another hook there, and that's where your sinker will be. I don't use 2 hooks of whiting because then it's going to be too complicated. And if you get, I don't use that. Some people do. I think if you buy rigs, they do. Buy rigs, like some extended one comes with 2 hooks, but no, I just run a single hook.
There's one when we use this traditional hooking system, then we had a whiting snatcher. The snatcher was catching on the fish, but the other hook here was not hitting them at all.
Is the leader, it might be your leader not long enough, or I'm not sure.
The idea with that is when the current front is floating.
Yeah, sits just above the ground. Yep.
Like that current.
Yep, it just sits behind it. So your tide's run that way, and it sits behind it, and the tide going bottom. And the reason you only put your squid strip on once is because if you put it on twice, and it'll spin. It'll start spinning, and the whole line will be tangled. That's the reason you don't. Unless you soften your bait, you can work. You tenderise your squid, and you can soften put your bait on. So this is, it's going to be hard to do this. This is, I'll go through some maps here. This is, this is the heads here, so that's the heads, work the heads. Up where I was saying we got those bigger fish the other night, this is where this is marine parks, because the marine park runs through here. This area here is where you tie, that's called the Lonsdale Bight, and that's where you'll get your big fish this time of year. You want fishing on this side of the bay, you want your flood tide, so your tide coming in, because that creates the dirtier water coming in. You will tend to want a bigger swell offshore, which will also push your dirty water in. And fishing all these edges, sort of around that 4 or 5 metres through all here, that's where you get your fish, but you gotta understand there's reef there. So you've got to use your sounder to find where the sand holes are. You find your sand holes amongst the reef, that's where the whiting will hold. Like I said, you do have days here where you get massive bags of fish, and they're really quality fish, but a lot of the time I tend to get sort of 7 to 15 fish, and they're really big fish. That's all through here, in this area, right out into your deeper water. Same with Point de Pin over the other side of the bay, which is the same sort of situation here, but fishing the flood tide here is too hard. It's the swell rolling in here really lifts up and throws you around. But you tend to want to fish the outgoing tide here, and it creates the dirtier water coming from out of these barrels all in here. So this is ebb tide, that's flood tide. And if you fish the other way, you'll notice the difference. You won't catch fish like a lot of the time. You rarely catch fish on the other tide. Like that night when we got them on the flood over here, because the tide was running too hard, it was a flood tide, but in here, if you get it tied in here, the tide doesn't quite get you in there. So I said to him, mate, we'll go try over there for a little bit on the flood tide. Just see, because we had recently got fish over this side, and I said, we'll go try on the flood tide over there. We went over there, and we got the waves throwing me around like crazy. We'll swing them like 5 metres on the anchor off deep in the swell, and we didn't even get a single fish. That's when we went back over there. We got the fish soon after that, because the tide was a lot slower there. And once that tide comes to that last hour here, we got fish. Similar up here, this is the Queenscliff Harbour here, come out of the creek. This is called the grass beds. So a lot of your fishing will be done through here. You get in tight here, there's really good fishing as well. There's more weed in there, so you have the fish holding there. If they're there, they'll hold there, you'll get good numbers. But you generally won't get your 1s and 2s and 3s. You'll get your big bags there if they're there. And out here, you tend to pick them off. And at this time of year is when your big whiting come in winter. They'll hold there, your big whiting will hold all sort of through this area here. As well as in Swan Bay, all along these markers here, there's fish all through there too as well. You can see one of your marks there. You've got that one.
So you use avionics on the phone.
The problem with the phone, I haven't got all your marks in there. You've got the thing with here though is the water tends to always be a little bit clearer in here. So you want to fish going into dark and going into night. Obviously, your best times to fish the whiting going into night and dark. Going to sun just before sunrise, going to sunrise and into dark. And through here is really good. There's also a heap of weed beds. A lot of people go, I went to St. Leonard's today, we've got nothing. They all go to that one spot out the front of Burke Street, we call it, out in front of the thing. Every single person goes there, they don't get fish. Another, you have 400 boats, why would the whiting be there? Think about moving to a different area. For example, all weed beds all through here, and why won't you get fish? If they're getting there, why can't you get fish there? It might take 2 or 3 moves to find the school. You just don't go to the same area where boats are. I've seen boats, even near mine, you try and avoid them as much. Sometimes you get fish, but I don't. It really puts the fish off. This is your St. Leonard's. Burke Street, where that mark is. That's an area all through there, you get about 500 boats. Same all through here. So these are all your gutters, obviously, that come through. That's your bank. you find your banks are sandy. On nearly every single bank, I bet you if you go to St. Leonard, you won't see a single person fishing on any of these edges out here. I guarantee you won't see anyone out there. Probably, I was in a bag there the other day. I sent a mate out there to a mark within one time where I was getting fish, and he got his bag of fish right on the edge of that mark. There was a big 7 metres of water there, and he got his fish. All he got a bag, no worries. Big ads on the end of the outgoing tide, no worries whatsoever out here. No, not one burned boat in sight. He was fishing amongst all the boats and didn't get a single fish the whole time. And come out here and got his bag.
What's the difference of depth between the white area, the blue, and the light blue?
Righto, so your darker blues are shallower and your whites are deeper. So basically all of St. Leonard's here is 5 to 7 metres of water, all through here is 5 to 7, that's your bank there. So
you prefer to be up in the blue?
No, on the white. The blues,
on the white.
The blues are shallows, that's your sand, that'll be your sand. Most of the time, you'll have patch, I think through here, and another one in yellow.
So through that white, that will be weed and
most
sand.
Most of the time it'll be what? You'll have patches of weed. I know there's a big bit of sand. There's a big bit of sand that runs in between here, but yeah, most of the time if you can find the weed in that deeper area, you won't really, if you have a really dirty day, you might get your fish up on top of the banks. But yeah, I like to fish the edges. Just as the edges there, just that you'll see them, they drop off a lot, like they don't just go gradually down, they drop off a fair bit from 2 to 7 metres. And you want to fish just on that deeper side. You want to use your sounder to find the weed, or use your eyesight on a clear day. Find where the weed, find where the sand is, mark on your sounder, go back, set your boat up so you're casting into the sand with your burley as well. This is all your whiting area too. This is off Sereno. I don't know if you fish up there much. I don't fish the whiting a lot through this area, but you will out here. Out here I do. A lot of people do fish through there. I personally, I don't really have many marks through here. I haven't really looked there. I fish them all through here. Same situation, St. Leonard's too. You get all your fish on the edges of the sandbar, so all up on these edges, you'll get your whiting on as well. Just try not, make sure you're not fishing on too much sand. If you're on too much sand, the whiting will be harder. You want the weed around it, so you've got because the whiting won't be there. There's no protection for them or food for them. Going to gummy sharks now. So I'll talk about the gummy sharks. Any questions about whiting?
Yeah, this one. Is it winter or summer better for whiting?
I like winter. One reason being there's not 500 boats on the water, and I find that this time of year, I've been out probably the last 20 times on the whiting. When I've gone to get my bag, like besides fishing those bigger fish, I've got my bag every single time this year. Every single time. That's 40 fish every time. I find summer's smaller fish, probably 27s to 30s of St. Leonard's area, where this time of year, all our fish are sort of 36 to 38 centimetres on average. Yeah, so I like going into them. Probably the last month is probably my favourite month for them. Just as that water temp starts, what happens is the fish are up the bay, and that water has just cooled right off, and they've just made their way down to the entrance of where the water's warmer. So that's anything else for white for gummy sharks? No. Alright.
Sorry, September's always been a good year around the Twin Sisters, yeah?
That's off Sereno there. That's when the water temp starts to start creeping up, and they'll get them running back up the bay as well. Okay. Yeah. I don't fish that. A lot of people fish out that area in that sort of 6 metres of water out there.
Same sort of idea though?
Same, exactly the same. Yeah. You don't. The tide still runs pretty hard through there, so you want to set your baits up normally. Yeah. All right. Gummy shark. You get big gummy sharks in Portland Bay in the tide, like big ones. Up the bay you'll find, you do get big ones. You'll find, for example, on Facebook, you might see in Melbourne, some guy got 3 yesterday around that 6 to 7 kilo. I don't fish a lot for those ones in the bay. I like to try and fish for your bigger fish, so you sort of get up to 30 kilo, you'll fish your gummy sharks. You want to look around the depths. You'll get them from 1 metre in water in the dark up to 20 metres during the day as well. But I like to fish around that 12 metres. I fish the South Channel a lot, which I'll show you the banks where I fish. You want to fish them, like, if you say it's dropping to 20 metres, you want to be in the bank on the side, on the edge of it is sort of around that 4 metres, which is big. They'll be on that middle bank, collecting everything that's coming off that 4 metre. So you want lines to go into the deeper water, and you want lines to go into your 12 metres water. So you'll find the ebb tide, the fish will come up they'll be in the deeper water, and then your flood tide, because it's a bit more water to play with, they'll come up on the banks a little bit more on your flood tide. And try not to fish too shallow during the day. You want to fish shallow during the night, because they're obviously night feeders as well, which helps. But everything scares them during the day, because obviously there's predators and that sort of stuff. They'll just go deeper. They'll always hold deeper. They hold on rubbles, like edges of reef, so the edge of a reef, you can see on your reefs up. There's a lot of reefs in the bay along the South Channel and along the Simmons Channel. You can see